Sin is a character that punishes opponents for their mistakes in the mid-range and uses 50-50 and strike-throw tactics to open up the opponent. Unfortunately, Sin as a character has many glaring flaws with bad hitboxes, long recovery on normals, and slow high-low compared to the rest of the mix-up characters, and simply put, the worst backdash in the game. Sin has to work harder in some areas than others to pull out the win. This is one of the only times I'll mention Sin's placement on the tier list in this guide. However, with a great pressure reset tool and a few neat tricks, Sin can open the opponent up and get high damage off a few hits. With all that said, timestamps are down in the description, and chapters are on the video. Please enjoy. Sin's neutral is all about whiff punishing the opponent's moves to start your own turn, such as going under a move with Elk Hunt or punishing a whiff normal with Beak Driver. Sin has two main goals in neutral. 1. Push the opponent into the corner. 2. Break the wall. In case you were wondering, Sin has almost no reason to wall slump, due to how heavy he benefits from positive bonus. Positive is very strong on Sin, allowing consistent card cancels on open opponents for high damage or potential kills. Sin's neutral is built around how Sin uses his great 2S to potentially open the opponent, or a 6P to call it a close range press or unsafe jump in, and using specials to call out different pokes from the opponent. Sin's Far Slash, while having great range, has 19 frames of recovery. I don't quite recommend using it as a poke, outside of very specific cases, especially because it has the same reward as 2S by confirming into Beak Driver, or 2H if you close enough. While Sin does not have the greatest neutral, almost every time he wins neutral he gets his turn, and can use this to great effect depending on where he is on the screen. In neutral, Sin has pretty alright defensive options to threaten mid-range, despite his shortcomings, with IED backdash jump heavy slash to threaten the approach. He also has a fast low in 2D to check grounded approaches. Beak Driver, as it's currently designed, cannot and should not, bar a few matchups we'll go over later, should probably not be used in neutral, and should be used as a whiff punish tool to close the distance on mashing opponents. Elk Hunt is 100% your friend. A low-profile approach option that closes this much distance is great. Also, seeing as how it's a low with, even if minimal, RPS, with a delayed follow-up to fish for counter hits or a gazelle step to throw. Using Elk Hunt in neutral can have great reward by going under normals like Far Slash or projectiles like Stun Edge to punish. Fun fact, Hoof Stomp can be used as a neutral tool. When Sin uses Hoof Stomp, he actually jumps off the ground, dodging most low moves, allowing Sin to call out opponents who like to use low pokes and start your turn for 50 meter or spending stamina. While Beak Driver may struggle as a neutral tool, outside of whiff punishing, as a pressure ender and a, well, not incredible RPS tool, it's pretty alright. There is some specific characters that Beak Driver does have a use for challenging certain actions. Examples being things like Testament Grave Reaper, Oscar Cubes, Jacko Minions, May Dolphin, Faust Item Toss. Against these things, Beak can carry a lot of neutral weight, and can help you start your turn. Beak Driver's follow-up does have some odd properties though. When you hit something with Beak Driver, you're able to follow up. This doesn't have to be the opponent. It could be Chaos Clone, Eddie, Minions, May Beach Ball, or Oscar's Cubes. Beak Driver is also a great way to end pressure strings when low on stamina, seeing as how it pushes you back out of most characters' range. This is especially important seeing as how Elk Hunt and Hoof Stomp are minus on hit without stamina or RRC. Who could forget the Kara potential Beak allows as well for things like 2S Beak Tyrant or 6-speed Beak Tyrant, both being great ways to clean up a round or get positive bonus. On block, Sin has access to some amazing tools, with a top tier close slash that has a deceptively tall hitbox, and one of the best pressure reset tools in the game, with a +3 6K that serves as a great low poke, even in mid-screen. Strike Throw is the way with this character, seeing as how the high and low are both highly reactable and punishable. Opting for Throw after a close slash or 6K is a great tackle. Seeing as Throw is so important, a setup to learn is Post Throw. You can whiff 2 5Ps and this auto times almost anything after throw. 6K, Post Stomp, or if the opponent DPs, you can backdash or block. Note that backdash dodges 6K and throw. Six K being plus means that it's a great way to force the opponent to guess, whether that means opting for a sweep, or a hoof maybe, even throw, can allow you to open the opponent or crank up the risk, both being rewarding outcomes. When low on stamina, you should be ending most block strings with Beak Driver, as while it's still punishable on block, it is a much smaller punish, allowing more safety on your pressure. Now, as Sim, we don't want to keep them in the corner for too long. So while we want to have the best block strings we can, our main goal is to nuke the wall with a Kara RRC combo. So practice Raw Hoof into Kara and Raw Elk into Kara. Both are absolutely required to succeed with him. On the subject of wall breaks, depending on the resources Sin is willing to expend, he can break the wall from almost anywhere with one Kara. RTL has great range, and while it may be a little unruly as a super, it has amazing corner carry potential. From the left wall, with 50 meter and 2 stamina bars, you can break the right wall by Kara canceling RTL after the Hawkbaker follow-up. Or even after an Elk Hunt. As long as you are near the corner, any special into any super will break the wall and grant positive, assuming you're willing to spend the resources. Breaking the wall should almost always be your priority, seeing as how we lack any real pressure in most cases. Having the meter to be safe is game-changing, and with proper knowledge, can always break the wall. Very quickly, I want to touch on stamina. Most Sin players are afraid to spend it, and this holds them back so much it's insane. There is zero reason to be unwilling to expend stamina if you have a plan in mind to get in that requires 2 bars. Just use them. Strike Throw with no stamina is infinitely more appealing than neutral with no stamina, especially with 6K to reset for plus frames to either set up a throw or block a YRC. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. This is where things get tricky. Sin lacks a backdash for defense. It's 28 frames and has the same invul frames as Chaos's backdash. Loses 18 frames. However, we have a very fast DP and a serviceable enough 2P, which means we can get a little creative. Sin's 2P is a standard 5-frame mash. However, it has combo potential with 2P, 6P, Beak Driver into the follow for really good corner escape. Hawkbaker, being car cancelable, is also a godsend for gaining positive, as mentioned earlier, and is a top tier reversal for the sake of Gazelle Step into a meaty close slash. If the opponent likes to use 6P to stop a jump out or a mash, Sin can air dash back and use jump heavy slash to punish the attempt. However, do not do this against tall characters. They will simply swat you out of the sky and kill you. Certain characters' pressure is built around specific strings of moves, like Soul's far slash pressure. If you FD and push him far enough back, you can use a 2D or a 6P to cover the run back in and start your turn by comboing into Beak Driver. Here's the part of the video where we briefly discuss combos. And by discuss, I mean show. Here's a compilation of combos with the numpad notation. Lastly, I'm not going to get another chance to bring this up. This is my favorite picture that we did for the whole guide. After any hit on the ground, Sin can red rope and cancel forward and get a simple super jump conversion. That gives him great Oki or damage depending on what you want to do at that moment. If you do no follow-up to Elk Hunt, you are to some extent forcing a guess on a throw, low, or a high. This is a great spot for Sin to be in and can change the tide to force a potential wall break. When you're fighting Leo, Baiken, or Anji, you have to play around parries. My best advice is when they're in a position they can parry, be a little more wary of using Elk Hunt in neutral and use throws more in pressure over 50-50. Basic, but effective. When fighting a character with a DP, you have to try and find the pattern. Sin post-throw setups like double whiff 5P into 50-50 is completely fake. My best advice when playing around these is to find the pattern in their use of DP and backdash it for a big punish, as blocking a DP leads to an RC that gives them their turn. We went over this earlier, but I think it's important to mention one more time. Against specific characters, there is a very high use case for the Beak Driver follow-up as a tool to close distance. This concept applies very strongly to characters like Jacko, Asuka, Happy Chaos, and Mei. Elk Shot is my tech that essentially gives Sin his XR leap back for 50 meters, although heavily watered down. The tech can allow Sin to call it a jump anywhere on screen, assuming he's willing to expend the resources. Simply Elk Hunt and Fast RC up, depending on your timing, depends on the height and the distance. Reminder, this is quite situational and quite difficult to apply. Similarly, Sin can use 50 meter on Hoof Stomp to launch himself in over big lows like Faust 2H. This one, however, is incredibly niche use, but an aggressive Hoof Stomp in neutral can jump lows, so I do recommend doing that. Despite essentially lacking a far slash for neutral, Sin 5k is fine. But it does beat Dolphin, Mix, Eno's air movement, and other miscellaneous things to check them in neutral. Simple enough, Elk Hunt goes under fireballs for a punish, and if you have the resources, Kara into RTL. Sin can special cancel into Still Growing, and if spaced correctly, funnily enough, dodge burst. And with that, we're done. There's definitely some stuff I didn't talk about, like Kara cancels, because I'm assuming you already know how to do that. It's been almost a year since this character was released. I'd hope people, if they're coming to a guide to learn the high level of the character, already knew how to do them. If you didn't, mash. Number 2. This was only made as an incentive during our Pride Month Rainbow Railroad charity stream. This was made as an incentive. If we raised 300 Canadian dollars, we would have made the Sin Guide. We almost raised $1,200. So, went a little past what I expected. So, this is a little late, but it's still going up on time in my eyes. I know I'm not the greatest Sin player of all time. I might be the best one in Canada. But to be honest with you guys, that's more by default than anything, because I don't know if anyone else is even here. If someone else is here, how you doing? With that said, I stream a lot on Twitch. I haven't been for the last few days because I'm busy making this. I stream a lot on Twitch. That's down in the description. Huge shout-outs. I want to specifically shout out Puddin'. They were dropping bombs during the charity stream. I'm talking hundreds on hundreds of dollars. So huge shout-outs to Puddin'. They didn't single-handedly cause this to happen, but they single-handedly got us to 1,200. So I want to specifically thank you here in a much more permanently on the internet format of this is going to stay here for forever. Thank you. I don't have anything else really to say on that. If you have any questions, anything I didn't go over, that is simple questions, leave them in the comments. I'll answer them if they're simple enough and I can actually type it out. If not, come to the stream. Ask me there. If I'm live, ask me questions there. I'm more than willing to answer you. With all that said, have a great rest of your day. Trans rights are human rights. You are loved. You are awesome. Take care of yourself, please.